You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Welcome to Oilersnation Radio, episode 146. We are recording on a Wednesday. Woo! Why are we recording on a Wednesday? Well, taking a couple of days off at the end of the week. So we decided to do it a little bit early. Some people actually in our mentions were saying, hey, you boys should be having an emergency podcast based on what happened yesterday. And we're going to get to all of it. But first, I want to shout out our friends at Sherwood Ford, the Giant out in Sherwood Park, Alberta, for helping us make this all possible. Head on out to see them if you're looking for service, if you're looking for a new vehicle. Again, Sherwood Ford, this is a broken record at this point. Broncos. 4 Broncos. Now, it would just imagine how nice it would be to sit in an air-conditioned Bronco on a day like today, cruising with my boys with some kind of like convoy situation. Maybe we could get some walkie-talkies. I know we've all got phones, but walkie-talkies are more fun. But it's only possible. Sherwood Ford makes it happen. So go follow them on Twitter at Sherwood Ford and on Instagram at Sherwood Ford _ the Giant. Mr. Yaremchuk, lead us off as you always do with the Giant question of the week.
It's a real simple one, but we want to get to the big news right off the hop here. The Sherwood Ford Giant question is simple. What are your thoughts on the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins deal? And I think it's only fair that we go to the president of the RNH fan club, Mr. Bagmilk, to take it away.
Yesterday was a fun day, man. It was one of those days where if you've been an Oilers fan your whole life, as you always are, it's too often we grew up, like Rick, Dan, and myself, we probably grew up in eras where our favorite players ended up leaving because of contracts. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of time in the 90s when the Oilers just couldn't afford people. There was a lot of time when people just didn't want to come here, didn't want to stay here. They would come, we'd fall in love, and they'd bounce. But yesterday was a day where a guy who was drafted by the team, a first overall in 2011, re-signed and made it adamant that he was staying here because he wanted to be part of the Edmonton Oilers. He wanted to be part of the city. He loves the fan base. He loves the team. He loves his teammates. And he wanted to commit on an 8-year contract, probably to end out his career as an Edmonton Oiler, making him the first coast-to-coast Oiler to get drafted and then retire as an Oiler. I mean, you could argue Oscar Klefbom is going to be in there too, but for completely different reasons that are a lot more of a bummer. But when it comes to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, it was months of wondering, will he, won't he? I think all of us, actually aside of Dan, kind of expected him to be back. And not to say that Dan didn't want him back. It was just kind of a feeling of will he, won't he? But we were all hoping he would be coming back. And then to wake up yesterday, I'll just walk you through my day for a minute here, Tyler. Woke up yesterday, my alarm goes off. I'm avoiding getting up as I always do. Give him a boy Frank a couple of scratches on his tummy because he loves it. And then I finally look at my phone and I've got 12, 15 messages already. And we're talking 7:30 in the morning. So first of all, my first reaction was, oh shit, something happened to the site. Secondly, oh shit, what happened? Secondly, I comprehend what's actually happening and that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins would be signing an 8-year extension. First of all, who was ever talking about an 8-year extension for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Nobody. And then to see that the numbers coming out at 5.1, very team-friendly deal, in my opinion, on the AAV. A little bit longer than probably a lot of us would have liked or maybe thought was going to happen. But I was happy, man. I was really happy. And it was happy to see not just that the Oilers locked a guy down who wanted to be here, locked a guy down who is a part of the solution, in my opinion, but also that the fan base had something to really get behind. I'm going to say, 90% of the fan base was super pumped to have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins sign an extension that's going to keep him here until his mid-30s. That doesn't happen around the NHL a lot. And the fact that it happened here with our boy, a guy who's beloved in the city for the most part, it was a good day. It was a fun day. The feedback was great. My mentions personally were so much fun that it was almost like I signed the contract extension. People were so happy for me specifically that Nugent-Hopkins signed an extension that it was a lot of fun. If I said I got 50 DMs on Instagram yesterday, that's probably light. If my mentions on Twitter were any indication, people were happy. Keep Nuge Forever was trending everywhere. And to think that that was a hashtag I started 10 years ago as a dumb joke, and then it's still rolling now and turning into merch. We've got different flavors of the Keep Nuge Forever shirt coming out soon. It was a fun day. It was a fun day to be an Oilers fan yesterday. It just came on a Tuesday. Nobody saw it coming. It was great. It was fun. I'm happy. I'm excited. My boy's back. Josh T. Park makes a hell of a Nuge video that's going everywhere. And great day. It was a fun day to be an Oilers fan yesterday. Fun day to get Nugent-Hopkins locked up. And a reasonable deal, too. A reasonable deal that I don't think a lot of people expected. I got plenty to say, but I don't want to talk for an hour straight. So what did you guys think? Tyler, you're up.
I just think I'll take, you did a great job summing up how the fan base should feel about this, and having a guy who clearly wants to commit to the city, who loves being an Oiler and loves the fan base. That's a feel good moment for everyone involved. And I think that's tremendous. I kind of like to bring it back to the nerdy contract side of things, as I do. And I'll say this, I think both sides should be absolutely thrilled with this contract. If Ryan Nugent-Hopkins wanted to go chase a higher AAV somewhere else, he could have. He gets $41 million over 8 years, and he probably could have gotten somewhere close to $36 million on a 6-year deal and then made up more money going forward. But he got the security that he wanted. He should be very happy with that. And Ken Holland should be thrilled that he's getting a guy whose value on the open market for the next couple of years would have been over $6 million. He's getting him at roughly a $1 million discount for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. And that's going to help the Oilers build up a better team. I think it's tremendous value for Nugent-Hopkins, who is likely going to be used as a left winger for the majority of this contract, but has that element of versatility in his game where he can move towards the middle of the ice. He can kill penalties. He can contribute on the power play like he has his entire career. He's so versatile. He brings so many teams to this league, or so many things to this team, both on the ice and off the ice in terms of the intangibles. I just think it was an A-plus contract for a player who I think has been an A-plus Oiler his entire career. And that entire career now looks like it'll be spent in blue and orange. It's fantastic all around from me.
Dan?
Tyler said it, and you said it, Bag Milk. You guys have kind of covered it well. One thing I wanted to kind of talk about, and maybe I'm completely out of left field on this, but I think that some credit has to be given to Craig McTavish, who back in 2014 signed Nugent-Hopkins and Eberle and Hall to $6 million deals that at the time, other than Taylor Hall, I think were looked at as a little bit pricey for those guys. But what it did is it gave this organization some stability. Now, when you say that, looking back on it, of course, we lost 2 of the 3 players to different issues and different deals. But when it comes to Nugent-Hopkins, I don't think you have this kind of loyalty from a player who hasn't seen much success, if any at all, up until this point, unless you did have something like that, what McTavish did. Of course, there's the element of the team around him and McDavid and Draisaitl and Nurse and all those kinds of things. But I do think that there is a little bit of a hat tip to Craig McTavish for that $6 million deal that he did for 6 years per back in 2014 as well.
The funny thing too about that is, so our boy Oilers Adam makes some memes for the nation from time to time. And yesterday he made one that made me laugh. It was Nugent-Hopkins signing his first contract, his ELC with Steve Tambellini. And then yesterday, Nugent-Hopkins on his press call, and outside of his neck tripling in size, the guy hasn't aged a day. He looks the exact same. I love it. It's amazing. Rick, your thoughts on yesterday?
I'm glad it's over. I never had any. I never had too much fear that wasn't going to get done. I just thought everything that Nuge brings to the table is it's going to cost you way more than what you're going to have to pay him. If you listen to Dusty this morning, Ken Holland was on with him, and it was like he was reading it off a scroll, just kind of labeling all the things he does. And he's like, he does this, and he does this, and you can do this with him, and blah blah blah. And it was just like a long list. And yeah, that's a player that's too valuable to let walk away. And I just hope this kind of like eases up some of the people that are out there that have the hate for Holland. Like, I think he's done a pretty good job with the team so far. I know there's been a lot of fear that he's going to do this, that, or the other thing, and I don't think he really has outside of Cassian and the AA trade, which were all pre-COVID and screwed up because of COVID. I think he's done a pretty good job. This gives me a lot more confidence going to this summer that what he's doing is what he's been saying he's going to do is, wait till this summer to really put it together, that's actually going to happen. So I love it getting it done right now. And I'm really excited to see what he puts together going forward.
And I think too, one thing that I just want to, sorry, Tyler, one thing I want to mention too is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, despite having a bad year, I think we all agree he didn't have a great year. But
perfect. He kept it cheaper. He saved us money with this year. He could have been $2 more million, right? We talked about it going like 7 was kind of silly. Yeah, it was kind of your ceiling. Now we're getting him now we got him at 5. Like this is, I know it wasn't a great year for him, but man, does it pay off for us in the long run.
But the point I completely agree. The point I was getting to is, despite having a bad year, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was still going to be one of the most chased free agents this summer. Mm-hmm. And rather than even check and look and see what was out there, he decided to commit to the organization that drafted him. And I hope that Oilers fans can kind of, even if you were soured on Nugent-Hopkins from last year, I hope you can at least take a moment to understand that one of the best available forward free agents this summer decided to stay where he was at a discount from where he could have been, because he wants to be here. For a franchise and a fan base that has to suffer through, first of all, countless years of just not being able to afford things like this, to having to way overpay guys to come in, or just even overpay in general, this is a good thing for the organization and the city. And I hope the fans are also excited about that, because he signed until the end of his career, or, close to it. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's huge, because in this city, to sign for cheaper because he believes in the team, he believes in his squad, and he believes in the fan base and franchise, that's a big moment for the team, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Like we've talked about that a lot now, but just having a guy who wants to be here. Like you think back to, the Danny Heatley thing, the Michael Nylander thing, the Chris Pronger thing, like the list goes on of guys who have kind of snubbed us a little and given us the cold shoulder, and to have someone who embraces being an Edmontonian and an Oiler and loves it the way Nuge does, don't take it for granted. And it really is part of the reason why you're so happy to see that 8-year tag attached to it. And he wanted a no movement clause on top of that. Not only was he cool with signing for 8 years, but he's like, you better not fucking trade me either.
And it's just, I don't now that this is done, and he talked about it a little bit yesterday. Ryan Rishaug, again, Rishaug's been asking great questions lately. And he asked Nuge, like, now that the contract's done, like looking back, do you think that it affected you? And again, Nuge didn't want to hold it as an excuse, but I refuse to believe that part of the reason he struggled a little bit this year was that the unknown of what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Ken Holland in his presser they said they started talking about this in January of 2020. And then a fucking pandemic happened. And then they were working through it again. And then the numbers didn't work before the season. And then they go through it, and Nuge didn't have a great year. But then to lock it down, a deal that, in my opinion, works for both sides, that's a nice piece of work by Ken Holland. And it's a nice piece of work from Nugent-Hopkins to get there.
Just for some contract comparables, I didn't get to this earlier when I wanted to, but I looked up forwards who signed contracts as unrestricted free agents. So guys that were in the similar boat as Nugent-Hopkins, and Nugent-Hopkins will now be the 55th highest paid forward who signed a deal as an unrestricted free agent. The players who are right below him earning $5 million a year: Jonathan Marchessault, Josh Bailey, JG Pajot, and Evgeny Dadonov. And the players who are actually in the kind of 10 spots above Nugent-Hopkins: Yanni Gourde, Franz Nielsen, Jacob Silverberg, Charlie Coyle, Brian Little, Patrick Hornquist, Michael Backlund, Andrew Ladd, Gustav Nyquist, and Jordan Eberle. Those are the guys making 5.5 or less. Like, when you look at those comparables, it's pretty easy to see that the Oilers got a really good value here with the Nugent-Hopkins AAV being at 5.125. And also, even at the point when this contract will age and it's in the final few years, by that point, the cap might not just go up, it might start to skyrocket, because we'll be through the pandemic and we'll be at the point where the US money's kicking in. A new Canadian TV deal might kick in on top of that. So we might be seeing the salary cap shoot up by the end of that, where $5 million, even if this goes bad and Nugent-Hopkins is only a third line penalty killing defensive forward at that point, if that's what he is, $5 million might actually be pretty stomachable at that point.
Well, that's the thing too. I was just going to say, because you mentioned it, Beg Milk, like I was the one where I just said, I just am preparing myself for the fact that he wasn't coming back. Hopeful that it did happen, and I'm happy that it did happen. But all along, I was saying that if the number starts with 6, it's a Nuge friendly deal. If the number starts with 5, it's a team friendly deal. And I was thinking 5.9. Yeah. I was thinking as close to 6 as you could get, but that didn't happen. And you're right, Tyler. Like what a $3 million deal today will be, if the salary cap goes in the projection that it was going pre-pandemic, a $5 million deal will be what a $3 million deal is today. So that's the value there is just, it's unreal for what you're getting from a Nugent-Hopkins. And if his offensive numbers do slide, players don't forget how to play the game of hockey and play defensively. That's just not that's not most of the players' MO. So even if he does end up sliding into that third line center role, that's a great player to have as a third line center.
Well, and you touched on it too. Ken Holland talked about yesterday. Part of the reason is if you lose, to paraphrase Holland yesterday, he says, if you lose Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, you create a massive hole because of everything he does. He's a Swiss Army knife for this team. Yes, I agree. He's probably going to play left wing, but he can play center if you need him to. And that's the kind of flexibility that I wish we had throughout the lineup, but we just don't. Nuge plays all situations. They're up by a goal, he's out there. They're down by a goal, he's out there. Power play, out there. PK, out there. You name it, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is out there. So I think this is a really good deal for the Oilers. I think it's a really good deal for Nugent-Hopkins. Gives him the security he wanted. It gives him the term he wanted. It shows the fan base he's ready to commit to, both the team and the city. It's a good day. Yeah. It's a good day to be an Oilers fan, to see Ryan Nugent-Hopkins sign an extension. And not to mention, this contract, probably 3-4 years in, I'm really bad at math, so don't check my math on this. 4.5 years in, provided that he's healthy and playing, no one will play more games in an Oilers uniform than Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Mm-hmm. He's going to pass Ryan Smith. He's going to pass Kevin Lowe. 18 years if he plays out this deal. That's a long time. That's a long friendship. And I'm very excited about it. Just like I'm very excited. Sorry, go ahead, Dad.
I was just going to say that kind of stuff just doesn't happen in today's NHL.
It doesn't.
Like Mike Modano played for the Detroit Red Wings. Like that to me,
I forgot
Mike
that.
Modano playing for the Detroit Red Wings was like a signal that we are in a new world where players don't usually stay with their teams their entire career.
That could type of thing could happen to Nuge too when he's by the time of the end of the contract.
100%, of course, and yeah, right. But the way that it's looking at it right now, like it's not even a question at this moment. You're right; it could happen, but
because Modano didn't go out to Detroit till he was there
until his last year. Yeah,
and that's with all these guys, at the Ray Borks and everybody like that.
But you look at Joe Thornton, you look at Patrick Marleau, you look at all those greats. Jerome McGinley, same thing. Those guys are they all move on at some point. And you're right, Nugent-Hopkins.
But why would those three leave?
Because they're old.
They want to play.
They're chasing championships, man.
Oh, well, that's fair. Yeah, we don't have to worry about that with Nuge.
You get Nuge a couple of cups here, and he's not going to want to chase the championship. Ray Bork left because he's chasing. Jerome McGinley left because he's chasing. They just start at the end of their career.
But
yeah, Modano.
Yeah,
but I get your point. I hear your point.
My point is that you guys should get yourself something to eat. It's lunchtime.
From where? From where?
Where
should we get something to eat from?
Skipthedishes.ca. You want Arby's, Tyler? No problem. If you're in my hood, out here on the West End, you can get Arby's to your house. You can deliver it.
Right.
You could do the beef and ched Big Mac that I invented a while back, where you just pop the top bun off the second one. You're stacking, baby.
They have the half-pound beef and cheddar. They have the half-pounder already.
Yeah, but I want to stack them.
You want a 1 pounder? Oh, yeah. I dig the way you.
Yeah. We're just losing the top bun on one of those. We're just losing the top bun. We're stacking.
We're going keto here. We're not worried about. Let's get rid of the gluten and the carbs here. Let's get the meat and the cheese.
You keep me carbed up. That's what I'm looking for. Skipthedishes.ca. Whether you're looking for Arby's, maybe you need a cocktail. It is hot outside. I don't know if anybody's mentioned this, but it is warm in Edmonton. Maybe you need a cocktail. Skipthedishes.ca can help you get there, provided that you're of legal drinking age or you're just hungry and don't want to cook. I am not turning on my oven, but our friends at Skip the Dishes will have options for the fine restaurants in Edmonton that will turn on their ovens for you. Skipthedish.ca. So before we started recording this today, I was speaking to Wanye about what a guy like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins signing means. We were just talking shop, talking all kinds of things. And I told him, I got to go, Wanye. We're recording ON Radio. And he's like, well, then I want you to ask this question to the boys. And Tyler, you're a little bit younger, so I might have to lean on Rick and Dan on this one. But who do you think is a more beloved fan favorite? Era appropriate, of course. Different players, different times. Ryan Smith or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Both beloved by the fan bases, both skilled, both high draft picks, both spent a lot of time here, both mean a lot to a lot of people. What do you think? If you're thinking Smitty, you're thinking Nuge. Both named Ryan, weirdly. One left at the airport, and one will be here forever. Rick, I'm starting off with you, buddy. We've been Oilers fans a long time. We've seen a lot of favorites come and go. But these two seem to live in a different space for a lot of us.
Well, I think they're going to have two different timelines to be judged upon. Pre-UFA day and post-UFA day. Obviously, post, it's going to be Nuge because he's sticking around, and that got ironed out. And whoever you blamed on Smitty leaving, Nuge isn't leaving. So at the end of the day, he's going to win that vote, I think. Before, I think Nuge is the better player. I think he's probably more important on your roster. But in the game of hockey, to become a fan favorite or, kind of win the hearts of people, I think Ryan Smith probably wins that race because he's done things like leaving teeth and blood and whatever on the ice and just getting off the ice, and someone pops a chiclet in there, something like that, and he goes back out there, doesn't really miss a shift. Not to say the Nuge isn't like that, but he just hasn't been in the positions to, take a pronger pass to the mouth and go get sewn up and be back in the next shift. So when it comes to like who I think is the biggest quote unquote fan favorite, I think because of the blue collarness of his play, and some guys just going, Nuge is too soft, blah blah blah. That I think Smitty's going to win that, but personally, I think the better player, all around player, would be Nuge.
Dan, what are you thinking? Smitty, Nuge, two Ryans, one Dan.
Well, for the record, I blame the Colorado Avalanche for everything that happened with the Ryan Smith deal because they paid him more than Nugent-Hopkins is being paid now.
But he went to the Islanders.
Yeah, he went to the
Islanders. But the Avalanche were the ones that were – the Avalanche were just the team that gave him the money that created that situation where the Oilers weren't willing to pay that much for Ryan Smith. And I think that's where the difference happens. Ryan Smith didn't have the same level of skill in the sense – like we've talked about with Nuge, that utility knife kind of skill set that Smith didn't have. Smith had all the heart and grit in the world, and at that time in his career, and great hair, and at that time in his career, that was super valued around the league. There were so many teams that were vying for that passion, that heart, that whatever, and that thing you can't see on a spreadsheet. And so Smith, to his credit, went and got paid by the Colorado Avalanche $6.25 million for 5 years. And so I don't blame him for that. But so for me to answer the question, skill wise, it's not even a question. For me, it's Nugent-Hopkins every time. But fan favorite wise, just because he was here when the years were lean, the talent was lean. We talk about all the other talent that left in the time that he was here. We had Bill Guerin, we had Doug Waite, Anson Carter, all these guys. But the one constant was Ryan Smith. The difference for him versus Nugent-Hopkins is there's a ton of fan favorites now on this team, and there's a ton of guys that not necessarily dwarf him in skill, but are a little bit more skilled than he is. So for me, the fan favorite is always going to be Ryan Smith in that equation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with you guys. I mean, like, I was at the game where Smith picked up his teeth off the ice. You know what I mean? I was there. I watched it, and then he was the guy for so many years. And I remember watching, I took the day off at trade deadline day, the day he got traded to New York. I took the day off from work because that's what you used to do back in the day, Tyler, before the Twitter days.
Yep.
And It was a real bummer. It was an incredible
tough day.
That was a real tough day. And then when he did his presser at the airport saying he was going to bring the Stanley Cup back to Edmonton if he won it with the Islanders, it was a tough day. And I was really concerned that we were going to live through another one this summer with another Ryan. That means a lot to people. But Nugent-Hopkins is going to be a fan favorite that may catch Smith now that he's probably going to close things out here. Hopefully, knock on wood. But I think it's tough to beat Smitty. He just meant everything to everybody for so long. And he was the guy. It's like Dan said, he was the guy for a long time. He was the guy standing in front of the net that would score a goal with his face if he could. And I think in a city like Edmonton, that goes a long way. But I do think that Nugent-Hopkins can get there because look at the reaction yesterday. The bulk of people were like, holy shit. I even saw Flames fans talking about how good of a deal this was for the Oilers. So,
dude, it saved him from signing, it saved him from becoming the next Sean Horkoff. He could have signed his deal, and if he doesn't quote unquote live up to it the way some people think, they're gonna shit all over him for it, right?
There's
so that's exactly what happened with the Horkoff thing. So the fact is, it's where it is. I think he's got no pressure the rest of the go here.
It is funny now, to think about it, Horkoff, that deal has paid him more than Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is going to make next year. But also it had saved him from doing and I've mentioned it before, but an Anson Carter situation where he was in a great spot with the Sedins when he was in Vancouver, and then he signed for the bag in Columbus, and it was just never the same. Nugent-Hopkins could have chased the bag in Seattle or, a handful of other cities that would have paid him more, but they didn't even get the chance to ask. And I think that's probably going to go a long way for who is a fan favorite in the city. Tyler, you're the youngster on this podcast. Close it out.
Yeah, I think Ryan Smith still has sort of that more of a legendary status, right? He had those moments in the 2006 Cup run, and he was here at some points where offense was hard to find. So he was able to stand out and be a leader in that sense a little bit more. And he played that blue collar style of game that a majority of Oilers fans are always going to be drawn to. So I think there are, every Oilers fan appreciates what Ryan Nugent-Hopkins does. And, there was not very much, if any, bad reaction to this contract on social media because everyone for the most part loves their baby-faced Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. But if we're talking about, who's going to be that legendary, it's almost like folklore, right? When you hear the stories of Ryan Smith. Now, I don't think we'll ever get there with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Maybe.
But maybe they'll have some playoff moments. Maybe those will come in this next deal. But I still just think Ryan Smith will always have such a special place in the hearts of Oilers fans that Nugent-Hopkins might not ever be there, especially when he's on a team with McDavid and Draisaitl, and that's part of it as well.
I think that this is a great question right now, but I think it'll be an even better question at the end of Nugent-Hopkins' tenure here because then you're going to have the entirety of his time. He's always going to have that Oilers logo in every picture that he takes with him. But Tyler said it, the moments. I think the moments are the key for any legendary status for any player of any city is those moments that you can look back on and say, you remember when Nugent-Hopkins scored that shorthanded goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals? Those things are the things that are going to establish yourself as a fan favorite. Nuge just hasn't had that opportunity yet, but him signing that contract allows for these opportunities to continue and hopefully come sooner rather than later.
One moment I want to give him credit for is kickstarting the Battle of Alberta 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That fight with Monahan, everybody expected Cassian Tkachuk. Everybody knew it was coming, but the fight with Monahan, when Nugent-Hopkins started the lawnmower in front of the bench, I watched that again yesterday. The boys on the bench were fired up. Nugent-Hopkins teeing off on Monahan, that kind of kickstarted the Battle of Alberta. So if he can do some of that in the playoffs, maybe this is a different conversation years from now,
Yeah. One other thing quickly to bring it back to the nerd hockey talk that I like to do. I saw a few people wondering, why are they doing this now with the Seattle expansion coming? Why wouldn't you have just sort of kept this deal in your back pocket and signed it later? But when you look at the Oilers expansion situation up front, McDavid, Draisaitl, even with Nugent-Hopkins protected, Puljujarvi's number 4, Yamamoto's number 5. That means they still have 2 more spots, even with Nuge signed, to give to either Benson, Archibald, Cassian, or Kara. So they still have a ton of flexibility in the expansion draft. And you could argue they could make a trade and bring in one more forward before the expansion draft yet, and maybe vulture someone else's list and pluck a player of quality away from a team like Boston or New York to the Islanders, a team with a lot of talent that they need to protect. So the expansion draft, less of an issue with Nuge than it would be for a potential Larson deal.
Well, and does this maybe signal to you that the Oilers aren't so concerned about the expansion draft and maybe already have a deal in place with Seattle?
Maybe. I think the Larson deal will tell us more, because if you wait on the Larson deal, all of a sudden, there's a chance you can keep Jones protected, and Seattle at that point might be like, okay, what's the deal here for James Neal kind of thing, right? Like what can we work out?
And also, I asked Frank Saravalli, dailyfaceoff.com's Frank Saravalli. I asked him.
Did you just text him? Did you ask him the question on text, or did you give him a call? Stop by his house?
I'll just call him. Maybe me and Frank will FaceTime a little bit. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I asked him on Real Life on Thursday about the expansion draft. And I was like, what do you think is going to happen this year, Frank? And he says, Dan, he thinks GMs have learned from the Vegas expansion, and that guys, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, I'm paraphrasing, that guys are just going to let you come and take their player. I would rather lose one than make a deal and possibly lose two or more. Florida, Dale Talon's the guy that everybody points at.
But I think for our situation, it's trying to take a James Neal or a Koskinen off our hands, not so much as, you're right, like a Florida protecting a certain player by exposing another player. Like it was goofy, but I think our situation is a little bit different. I don't know. And maybe Saravalli's right. And hopefully, for GM's sake, he is right. But I tend to believe that the GMs are all, think that they're smarter than they are.
And I got to say, when I was looking at that list of potential I don't know who tweeted it, Stauffer or
it was Staff. Yeah.
When I looked at it, first thought that I came to my mind was, fuck me, do we need some better forwards around here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if those last two spots we're using for the expansion draft are like a Cassian-esque, like really, because
we have a couple that you can't touch though. Just the young ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holloway and Lavoie.
Well, but you should never be using your expansion protection list for players that they won't take. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm
just saying, like in terms of like we need some more forwards. We do have some on the way. It's just
we have some on the way, but I'm just talking like immediately. Like if we're using two spots on Josh Archibald, I love Josh Archibald. Don't get me wrong.
Me too.
I'm an Archibald guy, but like protecting him in expansion, okay.
And if Seattle's grabbing Josh Archibald, you're doing okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with losing Josh Archibald, again, right? Like
as much as I love Josh Archibald.
Do you hold on to Archibald or Cassian if you only had one of the two?
Archibald.
Who do you protect?
Archibald.
Getting the contract relief of losing Zach Cassian would be really, really tempting. But what we were getting at with like potentially, vulturing in and attacking a team who might need to expose a few good players. Like look at Boston, right? Bergeron, Pasternak, Marchand, Charlie Coyle, all no movement clauses. If they sign Taylor Hall, they'd already be up to 5 forwards protected, which means they have 2 spots for Jake DeBrusk, Craig Smith, Andre Kasha, and like younger forwards too, Zach Senyshyn, Jacob Karlsson or Forsbacka Karlsson, Nick Ritchie's in there as well. If you were to go to Boston and be like, hey, we'll give you next year's 2nd round pick and maybe even like a 4th rounder as well for Jake DeBrusk, and then they're able to go to Seattle and be like, hey, this 4th round pick we have, we'll give you that to like not touch this. But like there's a chance for teams to like really bring in some extra value that they can then parlay onto Seattle and like really help with their expansion situation. It'd be interesting to see what kind of moves will be out there.
Well,
do you have Holland's number? Have you given him some of this advice here? Because what you're saying here, I like the way some of this sounds.
Yeah, I also like the way some of it sounds. Like another thing about the Nugent-Hopkins deal is that now we need to find one top 6 winger. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That is a much different job than had he walked away and you have to find 2. Mm-hmm. So I like it. What other teams, Tyler? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit because we didn't talk about this, but are there any other teams that come to mind where you're just like, they might have some expansion issues as well if they go maybe even the 7th, even with the 7-3?
I would be all over the New York Islanders right now. And I'm looking at their situation right now. They have a lot of players already signed, but they only have $5.7 million in cap space. They need to give their young goalie Ilya Sorokin a new deal. They need to give defenseman Adam Pelech a new deal. If they want to bring back one of Palmieri or Zajac, they need new deals. And then there's Anthony Beauvillier, who's a restricted free agent. The Islanders barely have any money as it is. And when you look at their expansion draft situation that they're facing, going through the forwards they have to protect, they're going to have to keep Barzal, Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Jordan Eberle, Josh Bailey, John Gabriel Pajot is number 6 already on that list. So they can't sign Palmieri till after the expansion draft then. Beauvillier could be that last spot, but then they could have to give up on a guy like Kiefer Bellows, who was their first-round pick a couple of years ago as well. I would be all over the Islanders trying to get Anthony Beauvillier before the expansion draft. If I don't get him before the expansion draft, I'm hitting Anthony Beauvillier with an offer sheet and trying to get him out of Long Island. That's a guy 24 years old, left wing, plays a bit of a hard-nosed style, was really good for them in the playoffs, skates well, can finish. There's a ton of reasons to like that guy, and there's a ton of reasons to think he might slip through the equation out on Long Island.
Dude,
I like
Raquel's going to be
GM
upset
Tyler.
when he hears this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raquel's going to be very upset when he hears this.
I love this. I love GM Tyler. What else you got for us? Who else you trading for?
Honestly, like the idea of getting one of DeBrusque or Barzal out of those two teams who have problems with expansion and salary cap issues on top of
Beauvillier, not Barzal.
How I was gonna say, did you make a mistake there, or how funny would that be to have Barzal come back now?
Yeah, I meant to say Beauvillier. Looking around, I haven't really dug in too deeply with a lot of other teams. A team like Detroit might end up being interesting, although they don't have a ton of value. But like a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi out of there again would probably be an absolute dream for the Oilers. What's going on with St. Louis right now? I really wonder. Tarasenko is the big name that Frank Saravalli is reporting is available. I don't think I love that, though. Like he's only played like 30-some games in the last 2 years because his shoulder's all fucked up. And if anyone knows how bad shoulder injuries can get, it's Oilers fans. So
well, I was just going to say, maybe Tarasenko works perfectly then, because we've just got the fucking pipeline right to the shoulder guy.
Yeah.
What if we go shoulder for shoulder?
Klefbom for Tarasenko, you'd have to throw in picks and you have to make the money work. Like he's making $7.5 million still.
Is St. Louis trying to get out from this contract? So how bad does St. Louis want to get out of this contract? If we did something along the lines of, say, and I know you probably have to throw in a draft pick, but if you do just for numbers wise, you do Mikko and Klefbom and throw in whatever pick you need to do, they get most likely Klefbom's contract goes away, right? So you save 4.7 that way, and then next year you get the other 4 whatever out of what's his face's out of Mikko's contract.
I'm sure the Blues would love Mikko Koskinen. You know, yeah, I'm looking at.
But they don't have a backup goaltender either. I don't think.
I'm looking at this Tarasenko thing, and he played 34 games over the last 2 years. Obviously a concern, but like, just for fun.
He was back for the playoffs, right? So he was like technically over the injury.
Yeah, he played 4 games in the playoffs, 2 goals. Could you imagine
that's all they
when
played,
Connors
though.
win? Could you imagine?
What about if you could squeeze either Devin Taves or Ryan? Is it Ryan Graves out of Colorado?
Yeah, Ryan Graves. Colorado's in a tough spot too. When you look at their defense, Dan, just to quickly give the info here, Eric Johnson has a no movement clause. Then there's Sam Girard, Devin Taves, Ryan Graves, and Cale Makar. That's 5 D-men that all need to be protected, and you can only keep 3 of them. So they're in a real tough spot with their blue line coming up here.
Expansion's going to be interesting, man. How far? What's the date on that, baby?
Coming up on your list has to be submitted by the 17th, and the draft is on the 21st, I want to say.
21st, yep.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of time left to debate the expansion list. I imagine we'll talk about it a bit over the next 2 weeks.
There was the other deal that I'm just drooling about. I was thinking of it.
Come on, GM Tyler.
So we saw the reports from Friedman that the Oilers might be interested in like either Dumba or Giordano, which we can get into. But the Oilers might be looking for a defenseman if Klefbom is indeed not going to play again. Nashville has Matthias Ekholm on the market. Left D, 1 year left, $3.75 million. Very, very, very good deal. Like that's a guy who is real close to a legit top pairing option. And then they also have Victor Arvidsson, who is reportedly available. 3 more years, $4.2 million. What would it cost for the Oilers to do a little one-stop shop and go to David Poile and the Predators and get both Arvidsson and Ekholm? The deal probably has to begin with your next 2 first-round picks, but even then, I'm probably adding to that package to get Ekholm and Arvidsson. Those are 2 guys.
How much money in? 7 million?
It would be about 8 million even combined for both of them. And you're getting a legit stud top 4 guy in Ekholm and a legitimate top 6 forward who has term and is still in his prime. Like, everything about that deal. Like, I might do 2 firsts and 2 prospects to get that done.
But are the Nashville Predators ready to rebuild right now, where they've got Matt Duchene signed at $8 million until 2026? They got Ryan Johansson signed for $8 million until 2025, and Philip Forsberg for another year at $6 million. Like, I don't know.
That's only 3 players, though.
I'm not sure.
And then Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis are signed each at $9 million and $6 million per past 2028.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Nashville would be ready to do, but there's reports that both those guys could be available. And if they are, I think they're both great fits in Edmonton.
I like GM Tyler. We need more GM Tyler, I think.
We need people to send in trade proposals and we can break them down.
I like that. If you want, leave it for us on the voicemail. It's supposed to be for real life, but we're stealing them.
Take it.
Yeah.
Let's take over their voicemail.
Stealing them. So
one rule for that, though, is that EA Sports has to be able to approve your trade before it can be mentioned to Tyler.
Of course. That's where all the best trades happen.
It has to pass the EA bar before Tyler will even listen to it.
Exactly. So Tyler will be running all your trade ideas through the old internet machine on EA Sports to see if it's plausible or not. But yeah, hit us up. If you need the link for the voicemail, it will be in the article on the website, Oilersnation.com. Leave us a voicemail. It's meant for real life. Doesn't matter. All right, boys, let me check the old timer and see. Yes, it is time to talk about Cornerstone Insurance. Our friends at Cornerstone have been a family-owned business for 90 years, and they have got all the insurance products you need for your life. Residential, commercial, life, auto, whatever you need. It's all right there on the website. And on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a little button for Citizens of the Nation. Click that. Get yourself a deal. CornerstoneINS.ca. Again, that's CornerstoneINS.ca. It's funny that we've already made it through 40 minutes of this podcast, and we didn't even talk about Connor McDavid winning everything last night, both Hart Trophy and the Ted Lindsay Award. He is only the 2nd player in NHL history, with Wayne Gretzky, to win unanimously. Every single first place vote went to Connor McDavid. And I don't know about you boys, but I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of writers, or actually all writers, didn't overthink it. You looked at a 105-point season in 56 games, you're like, yep, that's good enough for me. What do you guys think? Tyler, McDavid adding to his trophy case.
Yeah, it was really cool to see all the writers kind of come together. Like, think how often you get 100 people to agree on anything today is what Frank Saravalli said. And for all 100 writers to kind of put maybe their hometown biases aside in some cases, because I really did think there was going to be a writer from Boston who would vote for Marchand, a writer from Colorado who would vote.
What are you talking about?
A writer from Colorado who was probably going to vote McKinnon, and no writer from Toronto voted for Austin Matthews. The whole thing is like, it's awesome. McDavid deserves this honor. Generational player to the max, right? And he deserves these kind of honors and footnotes to go along with his career. So it was very well deserved. Do you want me to go with the Draisaitl McDavid fact now or information now, or do we want everyone else's thoughts on just McDavid first?
I just wanted to quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, credit to the PHWA, which I think gets a lot of crap for stuff. But the move that they made a couple years ago to release the voting trends for everybody, so they release everybody's ballot, so you know who they voted for, has been a huge thing, I think, to help kind of legitimize this vote. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the fact that you have not one single beat reporter from one of those cities with a homer picking their guy, that's amazing.
It kind of makes me wonder, Dan, if there were just a bunch of guys who at the last second on their ballot, when they started to maybe hear the rumblings of unanimous, were like, fuck that. I'm not going to be the one guy. I do not want to be the 1 out of 100 who didn't give him the vote.
Or the guys that like floated out a tweet where they hinted that they might not pick him, and then they just got blown up, and they're like, well, I don't know if I should risk this.
You know what this just reminded me of? That I can now send a text message to friend of the nation, friend of everybody, Ryan Pike from Flames Nation, about how he voted for Connor McDavid as the best player in the National Hockey League. Shout out to you, Ryan Pike. I know you're.
He is though, like he is, and we're giving people credit for something like
I just think it's funny.
Well, no, but it's just it's from the past results.
It's like not littering. It's like not picking up garbage. I don't know, man. That's
a good way of putting it. I like that. There was nothing close in this season. Like what Austin Matthews did was fantastic, but the fact that it was beaten down so badly by what Connor did, it is what it is. There's nothing you can really say about it.
Well, I got to say that I think it was close because Draisaitl was just the second best player in the league, and which leads me to Tyler. Go ahead.
Yeah,
so 20 some points off.
Yeah.
Hilarious, by the way.
So looking at the Hart Trophy Award and looking at each writer and who voted for who, there were a couple of writers who had McDavid and Draisaitl 1 and 2 on their Hart Trophy ballot. And the first one was Brian Hedger from the Columbus Dispatch, a Columbus Blue Jackets writer. And the only other writer who had McDavid and Draisaitl 1 and 2 on his Hart ballot was Edmonton's own Mark Spector.
It's understandable, man. I get because the way the wording of the award goes, that it's really hard to have two of the whatever. I get that, but if we look at like what MVP stands for and take out the nuances of the wording, it's very easy to say that Leon had the second best season.
And also looking at the Selke Trophy when it comes to Leon Draisaitl, there were two writers who had Leon Draisaitl coming second place for the best defensive forward in the NHL, and they were Mark Spector and Jim Matheson.
Hey, hometown boys.
Yeah, shout out
voting for our boys.
Who were the two? Who were the two that voted for Mike Smith?
That's GMs. GMs vote on the Vezina, so we won't know.
Do they not tell us? They don't tell us though?
No, they don't tell us which GMs. I imagine that's like a conflict.
There'd be a little bit of tampering, I think.
Like, can you imagine if Cheveldayoff left Hellebuck off his ballot or some shit like that? Like Holland didn't even have Smith there. He was like, nah, man, not that good of a year.
Also, if we're talking about votes as well, Darnell Nurse racking up a couple of second Norris votes.
So you guys are ready to hear? He got 3 second place Norris votes, did Darnell Nurse. You ready to hear who voted for him?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So the first one was Sam Carchidi of the Philadelphia Inquirer, so a Flyers reporter of all people. The other one number 2 was Eric Erlinson, Tampa Bay Lightning insider. And the third one who gave Darnell Nurse a second place Norris vote was Eric Francis.
Get the fuck out. Eric Francis from Calgary?
Eric Francis from Calgary voted Darnell Nurse behind only Cale Makar for the Norris.
Wow, good for you, Eric Francis. Turning teams.
Well, and a lot of people were saying afterwards that Nurse got robbed because he didn't get any votes. He got voted as the best defenseman in the North by like a long shot. Jeff Petrie was like 4th and 5th I think on people's ballots. Otherwise, there was no other North Division defenseman that got any credit. So full marks to Darnell Nurse for that.
It is kind of weird though to see that the defenseman that had the most points get shut out completely. I get it. I'm not sitting here saying that Barry should have been or anything.
Yeah,
the fact like not a 1, not a 2, not a 3, like it's
and Beg Milk has talked about it before. The goalposts that move with these votes sometimes is pretty shocking. Like next year, I guarantee you the guy with the most points will also be in the Norris Trophy conversation again, and that's just the way it is.
Well, it depends. I think it really depends who it is, because with Tyson Barrie, nobody could ever question what he does in the offensive zone. Mm-hmm. The guy moves the puck. He distributes. He fucking executed a 1-year plan as perfectly as one can do it. However, there are times when he is a fucking yard sale in his own end. And I don't know how many Norris votes are going to go to somebody who is just an adventurer out there. Sometimes he's like a rover, you know?
Well, you got to go back to like you go back to the mid 90s, and I'm sure Sandis Ozolinsh got a vote or two in there, right? And that dude
yeah, but he could throw hip checks though, you know?
Mike Green was pretty skeptical in his own end too.
Mike Green won the trophy with just all offense. Like he was basically a forward playing defense for Washington.
That is true. But I wonder just how Barry's defensive missteps kind of weighed into just being like, yeah, okay, you got a lot of points on the power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. Who didn't? And
I was going to say that's the other thing too. I think because that people play it down because he's playing with Darnell Nurse or he's playing with McDavid and Draisaitl.
I mean, if we're looking at those two, since Darnell's the one that got the votes, I mean, Daryl's the more complete defenseman.
Yeah,
100%. You know? But Rick's not wrong in saying that.
Rick's
how often does the highest scoring defenseman not get credit?
It is fun watching Connor and Leon just like pass MVP trophies back and forth. No.
Yeah,
it is. Like here, okay, me
for all us Oilers fans.
You, dude. I'm telling you, I tweeted last night. I was like, you sprinkle in a couple Stanley Cups with all this passing back and forth of MVP trophies, and I'm going to become the most smug fan out there. Like it's going to be terrible. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be terrible for some people.
Well,
but watching what these guys do out there is crazy. Adding some Stanley Cups, man, we'll be 11 feet tall.
Well, it's like 3 of the last 5 Hart trophies are those 2.
Well, we didn't mention it in the rundown for this episode, but I just wanted to throw it out there too. Like Gregor pointed out, Draisaitl didn't even get a mention for the All-Star teams, which at the end of the day, who cares? But like the second leading scorer in the league didn't get a nod at all. So I mean, there is still stuff with the awards that is just janky.
Isn't it weird though? The best goaltender, the Vezina winner, was on the second team?
Yeah, that is odd. Hey.
Well, and also
you're the best goatender, but you're not on Vasilevsky got the first spot.
Who did win the Vezina? I didn't even look.
Fleury.
Really?
Yeah. His first
I don't know
ever.
about you guys. Like we mentioned this, Dan. I know you said it. Like I had no idea that the awards were last night.
I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna mention it in my hot and cold performance, but that was just
were a couple. I remember seeing like retweets because the Oilers would say something about it, and you really wouldn't look at it, and somebody like, "Oh, this is a funny way of the NHL saying that Connor McDavid was going to be given the Hart Trophy on Tuesday." Like that, so I'm just saying like retweets and people making like little side jokes about it. I can't say that, there's a billboard or something that caught my eye that the NHL put out there that, in fact, I didn't even look to see if it was on TV. I thought it was just online at first. And I was like, well, this is kind of stupid. I got to watch Twitter. Like, what is this?
I found out about the awards happening because our social media guy he sent me a text he sent me a meme for approval of Connor winning both awards. I'm like, oh shit. Good for you, Waz. Always on top of things.
And speaking of weird votes as well, I just wanted to throw it out there. McDavid won the MVP trophy, but he didn't get all of the first ballot awards for the All-Star team. Seth Rorabaugh of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review gave Sidney Crosby the nod for the All-Star team ahead of McDavid.
Got to. You got to.
Which is weird. Did he vote? Did he vote on the Hart Trophy?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I'll have to get Tyler.
Because he got 100. Like if the same people. Yeah, is it the same people that do that? Or
let me look here. Hart. It was Seth. You said that.
Seth Rorabaugh. Yeah, he did have a vote, and he picked McDavid as the number one.
Well, then that's what I mean. That's the same thing as the
but he didn't pick him. But here's the thing:
the Fleury thing all over again.
To all the writers that are listening to this, do what you want with the All-Star team. Vote on the All-Star team how you want. Pick the Hart Memorial Trophy as the best player in the league. Mm-hmm. That's it.
And
they got to change the wording of the rule then. Like there is that the wording of the rule, the way it is it's weird. Like just fucking fix it.
To me, the award that McDavid won last night that means more anyway is the Ted Lindsay.
100%.
Players vote on that one. Players are the peers vote best player, Connor McDavid. To me, that's the one that matters. I've said it a bunch of times over the years. Seeing who wins the Ted Lindsay is the most interesting to me. I don't really care about who the writers think. No offense to all of you. Thank you. Follow Frank Saravalli on Twitter. What else we got for housekeeping? Yes. Holland said in his presser he is expecting to meet Oscar Klefbom or speak with, I should say, over the next 10 days. Tyler said that the lists for expansion have to be in by the 17th. So he's going to talk to Oscar with time to spare on that. We'll see what it comes with that. But Jason Gregor reported on Oilersnation.com this past Monday, to quote, "Right now, based on conversations I've had recently, I say it's very unlikely Klefbom will be ready to start the season. One source says, I think it's 95% that he won't play again." So take that as you will. That is from Oilers Nation. And let me see if the quote continues here a little bit. "If he is unable to play again, I hope he is able to accept it without much pain and suffering." Yeah, that's a bummer, because like you reach the highest level, he's got a contract, and then just to have it taken away from you. But at the same point, you got to take care of your health, because if that shoulder's as banged up as it would probably need to be for him to contemplate retirement, he's a young guy. We've
talked about this so much too. Like, I mean, it's better to just probably for us to just wait till there is news, right? We've been speculating on the Klefbom injury for like a calendar year now. It's wild.
What I can confirm, though, Tyler, is that his abs are probably still looking delicious. And that's what matters the most out of anything, Right. Tyler, get your butt.
You can do abs with a shoulder injury? I'm just trying to figure. What happens if it's a bit of does he need a bit of a sling to hold it in spot? Maybe he's got a bit of maybe they're not looking so hot right now and he's got an extra down about it.
That would be the most troubling news of all. If the abs are gone, pray for us. Pray for the abs.
So is that how he's going to announce it? Is that how he's going to just lift
Reveals
the shirt?
One ab at a time.
Yeah, if he's all jacked up,
I am coming back to Edmonton. That's how it goes. I love it. Tyler, get your buttons ready. It is time for the Hot Cold Performers of the Week. Courtesy of our friends at Deuce Vodka. If you go to deucevodka.com, first thing you see, Brett Kissel. Looking handsome, sitting in the mountains, got a fresh bottle of Deuce Vodka. You go to Find in Store. The button's right there. You'll have a store locator where you too can get a bottle of Deuce Vodka for the weekend. Oh, yeah, it's Wednesday. It's not the weekend. Maybe you just want to close out the week with a cocktail. I'm not judging.
Thursday's pretty damn close to the weekend, man. It's pretty much the weekend right now. This is like the equivalent to like noon on a Friday. That's how close we are to the weekend right now.
That's true. DeuceVodka.com. Find yourself a bottle. Store locator is listed right there. As we do every week, boys, we start with our veggies. It's time for the cold performers. Dan, you're up first on my screen. Who you got? Deuce Vodka cold performer of the week.
It's tough because I try not to be too negative, but there is a trend that is going on in our fair city right now, and it just needs to stop. There's a lot of hate and a lot of anger being spewed at a lot of marginalized groups and persons of color, and it just has to stop. And it takes every single one of us in this city to do that. And when you recognize and you hear the hate, you need to speak up, or you need to try and do your best to try and stop that. So my cold performer of the week is just the hate that is flying around a little bit right now. We need to overcome it. I
don't have my buttons because I'm not at home.
Can you make sounds? Can you make sounds with your mouth then, please?
He tried.
Burr.
I like that. There we go. We got new buttons this week. It's Tyler. Rick's up next. Your Deuce Vodka cold performer of the week.
Okay, mine's gonna come out from. It goes to Gary Bettman. It's gonna go like not the way everyone expects it to go. Look, you're lying to the camera if you say that you're 100% okay with the official, right? I get it. You're from the era where you really don't air your dirty laundry in public. I get not wanting to, say anything bad about your own officials during, on television. I get all of that. But I think we're in a time now where there's enough people, it's being brought up that you just have to sort of kind of acknowledge it in a way that suits both sides. Like, you know what, guys, we have been wrong. So we do get a bit of a slap on the wrist, and it has to appease the other side because everybody has to be happy at the end of the day. But if you could just go up there and go, you know what, guys, you know what? Because he did bring up the fact that humans make mistakes, right? And I'm okay with that. I get that. It's part of it. No problem. But after that, you just dropped, you know what? We're always trying to become better. You don't have to come out and say we have the best. They do have the best officials in hockey in the world. Obviously, just the way the rankings, everything goes. But you don't have the best officials based in anything, anywhere. Enough with these stupid ass all or nothing comments. You know what, guys? We're always trying to be better. We're always trying to improve ourselves. We never want to let anyone down. There's been some times out there that haven't looked great on camera, and we're going to become better. We're always going to try and be better. And you can just leave it at that. But this whole, we are the best and the best of the hockey and the best in the world and all this stupid bullshit, man, like, get off that, because you're only hurting yourself in the long run. So this comes to just Batman. I guess anybody who's just not willing to admit like a little bit fault, dude, it's not that big of a deal. Just say we're trying to work on it and move on. We were taught this when we were growing up as children. Come on.
Cold sound.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good button. Tyler, you're next up. Deuce cold from the week.
My cold performer of the week is going to be my parents' basement, because that is where I have moved back since it's so hot. I don't have AC at my house anymore. So the other day I was sitting around, my girlfriend works from home, and we looked at each other at like 9:30 in the morning when our apartment was still somehow 34 degrees. And I just said, why are we doing this to ourselves? We're both double vaxxed. My parents are both double vaxxed. I'm the only one in my whole family who hasn't been double vaxxed for a full 2 weeks. And I just said, you know what? I think we should go live with my parents for a while. So that's what I'm doing now. My parents' basement is cold. I am back to being nothing more than a blogger out of my parents' basement. And that gets my cold performer of the week.
Give yourself a button, Tyler.
Brr. The Gucci Mane one. Brr.
The Gucci Mane one. Nice.
My cold performer of the week is the fucking sun. Doing his job, damn it. But man, chill out, bro. Good Lord. I like this kind of weather. I really do. But normally I can swim up to a bar and get a cocktail when it's going on. And Frank hasn't learned how to use the blender. So I've got two cold performers of the week.
The buildings have AC in these types of places. You go to Vegas, it's hot. You duck into the casino. You go play craps for a little bit. Cools you off. You're ready to go back outside again.
Exactly. So the sun is my cold performer of the week, and Frank for not knowing how to use the blender. I love you, buddy. Figure it out. Can I have a button, Tyler?
I don't remember what my cold performer buttons are. I'm going to have new ones coming up, though. So,
we have been bamboozled and hoodwinked and something else.
There you go, Dan. There you go, Dan. Dan Stephen A. Smith. All right, flipping the ledger. Let's end off on a positive. Hot performers of the week. Tyler, starting with you. Reverse the order.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. He's been a cold performer on this podcast plenty of times. But you know what? I'm going to give it to Eric Francis for giving Darnell Nurse some love in the North Trophy Bowl. Like, that is just so funny. The guy who is consistently anti-Oilers, a massive Flames homer, is able to set that aside and go, you know what? The big D-man, he was the second best defenseman in the NHL last season. I love that Eric Francis gave the Oilers some love. He's my hot performer of the week. Put some respect on my name.
Rick's up next. Your Deucebach, a hot performer of the week.
Well, I think this one's going to go to, and it's weird that they get it, but this one goes to the Yankees. They righted a wrong from quick math says about 60 years ago. And Gwen Goldman, as a young child, she wanted to become a bat girl for the Yankees. She wrote in, and the Yankees primarily said, you know what, the ballpark is no place for a girl. And it kind of died at that. So obviously that was the time in the 60s. However, now in 2021, they brought her back as a 70-year-old and let her fulfill her dream. I'm a type of person that'd still be great for me. Like, I want to go stand and hold the flag on the blue line before the other game. Yes, please. Like, where can I'm putting sock tape on. I'm getting fully dressed for it. Like, I'm going full bore for this, so I can appreciate this. So Yankees, I guess, sort of have to give it to you here for finally letting this woman live out her dream.
That's hot.
That's a weird noise to make, but all right.
And just to add to Rick's hot performer, how happy did she look in all the photos and everything?
Oh, yeah.
She's having the best time.
I'm telling you right now, as a 40-year-old, I would be ecstatic to stand next to Connor. Anybody, put Chris Russell next to me while I'm holding the flag there. I'll wear the full cheese grater if they really want me to.
I was going to say, we can probably get you to be a bat boy at the old Ballpark.
Let Rick bat boy for the River Hawks.
That's what we want.
He messaged you when he was 16 years old, River Hawks, and you didn't let him.
Dan, you're next up. Deuce Vodka, hot performer of the week.
Well, I don't have his cell phone number. He doesn't follow me on social media, but I'm going to give it to DFO Hockey, Daily Face-Off Zone, Frank Saravalli, for the question he asked of Bill Daly. Did Bill Daly answer the question? Not at all.
No.
But the fact that a media member was able to, stand up to two of the biggest guys in this league and ask them, are you okay with the Tampa Bay Lightning circumventing the cap? And they didn't say they weren't. So yeah, Frank Saravalli, you're my Deuce Vodka hot performer of the week.
He's a hot guy.
He's a hot guy.
Nice.
There you go. I'll just wrap things up. Deuce Vodka, hot performer of the week. For me, how could I not? The Ryan Nugent-Hopkins extension. I give credit to Ken Holland for working it out. I give credit to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for working it out.
Give yourself a little bit here.
Yep.
Give yourself a little bit here. If you think the Keep Nuge Forever hashtag didn't have something to do with this, look at the tweet last night when the Oilers said, you know what, that tweet was directly at you. So you get a little bit of credit for this too here. I've heard that you're not going to get a percentage of it, but you get a little bit of credit for it.
I've heard that a few times, and I won't take the credit for it. The hashtag turned into it's just got a life of its own now. I was trying to find a while ago the first time I ever used it. And I don't know if it was on the site or if it was on Twitter or where it was, but that hashtag is to see it trending yesterday. I was like a proud parent, just to see. And then when the Oilers, their announcement was, we're keeping him. Like, okay.
Winky face.
They knew. Okay.
I see what you're doing. So my hot performer of the week is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, my boy, This was very good for the brand, boys. I'll tell you that. Rick's wearing a Keep Nuge Forever shirt. People were buying them up yesterday. We've got new flavors coming, so I'm excited about it. This was a good day.
Hey, you sent out those thank you cards to Calgary before. I think you should. I think we should get a thank you card to OEG and see how far. Let's see if they say they post this anywhere. I don't know who you had to put it to, but I think you should send one or two. I'll split the cost with you too.
You know what? Stamps are cheap, brother. Mm-hmm. We got fucking stamp money around here. We'll send those to OEG. Thanks for signing Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Makes me happy. I picked a horse and he's still in the race. Hell yeah.
Damn Arby boys, wheels up.
Man, these buttons are way better. Tyler, you're fired. Just kidding. I love Tyler. From Sherwood Ford, Skip the Dishes, Cornerstone Insurance, and Deuce Vodka. I'm happy today. It's a Wednesday podcast. We've got some days off coming. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is locked up for 8 years. Connor McDavid, NHL's best by a sizable margin. Oh, and just lastly, one last thing. The videos of Connor and Leon talking to each other about the awards were so fucking fun.
So good.
They were so
First of all,
fun.
why are they sitting so close to the wall? And second, are they in the same house?
They look like they're in the same room.
That color looked like I want to see, like, they've got each other's girlfriends sitting there. They're about 12 feet apart and they're taping their things here. Dude, they look like they're pretty close. And if we get to the end of this one day and find out they were in the same house, just having, a nice little summer day, that'll be even better.
Or we need to start comparing paint swatches from both castles, Also, I was super pumped yesterday to see Leon Draisaitl in his story giving a shout out to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for the extension. Nuggy baby. I loved it. And again, another hot performer of the week goes to Josh Park. The meme that he put out, the video after the extension, he told us on our team meeting yesterday, we do them on Tuesdays. He's like, I'm going to whip something up for the Nugent-Hopkins extension. And he crushed it. He really did. So Josh Park, you were very good at those. Thank you. Thank you to OEG for letting us take Josh Park. I'll wrap it up on that. From Dan, Tyler, and Rick, and myself, Oilersnation Radio episode 146 is in the books. Thanks for listening. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers. Let's grow this podcast as the offseason rolls on. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Shout out Eric Francis.
Best wishes.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media to stay up to date and never miss a podcast.